Hi all, welcome to my channel. Today I'm making a video that was inspired by a video I watched the other day from a woman by the name of Elle. Her video is called Black Women Belonging and the Ache for Something More with Tara Roberts. That can be found on her YouTube channel, which is Elle, Empress of Ease. And I'll make sure in the description of this video, I will make sure to put a link to her video and also her channel. But anyway, I was watching her video, and basically she was interviewing the author Tara Roberts. Her book was called Written in the Waters, and so basically they were talking. She was talking about her journey through working through her sense of belonging, wanting to basically find home, kind of like that pilgrimage that us as Black people, a lot of people either think about or have gone through, where they want to make a connection with Africa, make a connection with our ancestors, make connection with our roots. And so they were talking about how she started out thinking about like this kind of grand homecoming where she would come and feel a sense of peace and being accepted and embraced by the countries that she went to, and how that started to become another way in which you kind of recreate the way you talk about belonging and the way you talk about coming home and what that looks like. And so I just thought it was really beautiful. It was really interesting, and sort of like some of the beauty of it, and sort of the way that you had to like the tension that it caused, and sort of how to recreate and rebalance that in your life. So it's something that really, really touched me. And so my video is basically taking that concept of finding home and using it with through doing that through astrology. And one of the ways you do that is in a way talking about the concept of houses, right? Because houses is one of the cornerstones of talking about astrology and doing charts and stuff like that, is looking at the houses. And so I thought about looking at ourselves as people, as individuals, as our own little separate houses. And the houses of our astrology charts is like rooms in our house. And so talking about getting back to ourselves, rediscovering ourselves, learning about ourselves, and one of the ways doing that through astrology. So before we begin, I just want to welcome you to my channel. My channel, I've fashioned my channel to be for Black women of all gender identities and non-binary folk who are interested in getting away from the ways that white supremacy and capitalism has basically like invaded our lives, you know what I'm saying, as Black people, and using astrology as a tool to do that, to rediscover ourselves and look into ourselves. And it's like a way to get to joy and freedom. So that's basically what my channel is about. That's what my aim is to do that through the lens of astrology. And I want to give a disclaimer. Oftentimes in this and subsequent videos, I will be giving information and advice. And I just want to make it clear that I am not a medical doctor. I'm not a licensed clinician. I am not a licensed therapist. All the information I've given is for that informational and entertainment purposes only. It is a way that I use healing and transformation in my own life. So that's something that I want to share. But I also want to make it clear that any like herbs or any kind of planetary combination that I ever talk about that deal with health or wellness, and this goes obviously to everything that you're doing, always seek some sort of professional, whether it be a holistic practitioner, your medical doctor, your therapist, or anything before you use any kind of therapies or any kind of things that affect your health or your life. So I just want to say that to begin with. But with that said, I've been doing astrology for pretty much all my life. I've been reading it, studying it. I've been a student of it. I've gotten my own chart done several times. And so I feel like that in term, and also with me, my 55 trips around the sun, I feel like I have a little bit of wisdom and things to impart. So I invite you to subscribe to this channel if you want to take this journey with me, if you're interested in astrology in any way. And so hit that subscribe button, and now we can begin. So let's dive in. So, like I said, using the analogy of itself as a house. And so each of the houses in the astrology chart are basically like rooms in our house. So the first house that we consider is the first house on your natal chart. And the first house is like the house of self. So that's who you consciously put forth in the world, how you dress, how you style your hair, how you talk, how you walk into a room, how you want people to receive you. And so I liken that to like a literal house. When you first pull up to a house, you see the front, right? You see the front, you see the landscaping they did, whether they put flowers, they have chairs, a porch, whatever it is, right? So basically the first house is that, like how people's first impressions of you, how they come to see you when they first meet you, right? And then also like stepping in through the door. So once you step into the door, that's sort of leading into the other houses of your chart. So when you first walk in, you see like, oh, there's more to it, right? There's like you see the front of the house, you see everything looking a certain way, and that's sort of the presentation. That's like the package that you bring across to other people when they first meet you. And so then the second house is a house of resources. And so I know that's really general, but I liken that to like the foundation of your home. So where your home is built on, right? And so what is it built on? What are you about? Your resources. What do you have to give? What are your innate skills? What are your innate talents? What do you bring to the table? What are you building your life upon, right? And so that can look like any kind of way, the way that you're resourceful, the what you have to give to the world. And then in a mundane sense, it's like what material things you have. And a lot of times in traditional Western astrology, they look at the second house as like your finances, what money you have, what is yours. But on a bigger scale, it's like you as a resource, your value, your worth, and what you value and what you give worth to. So that's sort of like how you kind of build upon, right? How you like build upon what you build your life upon, right? So that's the second house. Then we get to the third house. And the third house is like the community that your house is in. It could be your backyard, it could be your front yard. It's like your neighborhood, the street that your house is on, your neighbors, people within your general community, your family. A lot of times, like going back to traditional Western astrology, the third house is like the house of like your siblings, your cousins, the people who you interact with. Like your intermediate family is like your immediate community, right? So that's like your initial community is like your third house and the people that are in it. And so that also entails like your learning, the things that you learn, the data you receive, the information that you initially process as a young person. And so that's like sort of like your first exchange of information and data. So that's like your third house, right? So then we get to the fourth house. And your fourth house is your house of your family structure. It could be your literal home. It could be your childhood home. It could be your home now. And when we later on, when we start talking about like your progress chart, that's sort of like your home in the structure of it within adulthood. But in your natal chart, it's like your childhood home. And it also involves like traditions that are handed down, the things that your family does as a family, whether it be culturally, ancestrally, all those different things. So it's like the ancestry that you're handed, the traditions that you're handed, how you grow up, how you're taught to be as a person, right? And so that is all encapsulated in your fourth house of home. So that would be like your like family room or your den or whatever, like your kitchen table or like family, wherever you eat, all the things that bring your family bring to you in terms of the tradition and stuff like that. So then we get to the fifth house. So the fifth house is like your game room, or like your playroom, right? It's like as a child where you learn how to receive pleasure, what things that you start to develop that you find pleasurable, how you're taught to like things that you're taught to like and love, and also it's a house of pleasure, how you want to be pleased, how what you find fun, and just sort of like your playful nature. And when you get older, it's like the place of your inner child. So where it began and where you are now. So that's sort of like your fifth house, like the game room where you have fun, right? Where you relax and you enjoy and you're comforted. It can also be your dinner table too, what things you like to eat, what things you like to smell, what recreational things you like to do, how you like to have fun. So then we get to the sixth house. And the sixth house is kind of like your home office, right? So it's where you go to sit to pay your bills and where you take care of your responsibilities, the thing that sustain you to keep you afloat in terms of like how you're able to be okay, right? And so all those day-to-day routines, your daily things that you need to do for yourself. And so if there's this also is like one of more like not fun houses, I would say. It could be looked upon in that way because this is kind of like the muck, right? Like, oh, I mean, everybody has some sort of responsibilities, like putting gas in your car, making sure you have money to put gas in your car, right? If you don't want a car, you gotta find out how much you need for the bus, whatever, right? So it's where you take care of your business, right? That's like your daily routine, your daily things, and also it's like your daily work. And this also could be things that can sometimes be a source of stress, honestly, like things you have to deal with, like your responsibilities. I mean, everybody has some responsibilities here and there. So it we are aiming toward those things that are responsible, that are still healing to you. But I mean, at the end of the day, there's some things that you just have to take care of. And so this is also a house of where we kind of look at your health because obviously things, responsibilities, and things that might be stressors or things you have to take care of can also affect your health. So we look at that too in this house. And so the first six houses are sort of focused on you as a container in within of yourself, all your structures and things and ways that you build upon. And so then we're going to get to the seventh house. And this is where we start to interact with others, how others play a part in our house, right? And we kind of talked about a little bit in the third house in terms of the community with our family, in particular siblings and cousins who we have an exchange with on a different level than like say your parents or your you know things like that or your ancestors, which I said is in the fourth house. So seventh house is where we go from talking about ourselves, and this house in the zodiacal chart is opposite, is right across from your first house, conceptual, literally and conceptually. So your seventh house is your house of partnerships, whether it be romantic partnerships, business partnerships, people who you deal with on a one-on-one basis. And so it's sort of like it could be a balance or it could be an opposition. And so basically, it's like your first house is you, yourself, your needs, your wants, how you want to be, how you come across. It's house of self, right? So you look at your seventh house as the personal house of others. And so sometimes your individual wants compared to another person's wants or wants of the partnership might conflict. Or but you obviously are seeking a balance with those. You want to set up your boundaries in what you want, but you also have other people in your life and respecting their boundaries and their wants. And so you look at how those things work together. And like that house is very popularly looked at as like your relationship house in terms of like romantic relationships, because that is a significant one-on-one to a certain extent, because obviously that's like a relationship binary that we kind of set within returns of when we're talking about sort of breaking down white supremacy and capitalism. Oftentimes it's looked at as like this one-on-one relationship, but obviously people have other types of romantic relationships that don't just require a one-on-one relationship. But even if you are a person, say, that is polyamorous or things like that, you still are relating to another person within that structure. You might be dealing with multiple one-on-one relationships, but still it's looking at that with that and another person. And like I said, sometimes it could be oppositional, sometimes it could be balanced, but realistically, it's a little bit of both. So that is your seventh house. So now we get to the eighth house. And the eighth house is set up on the zodiacal wheel as an opposition from your second house to your eighth house. So as a reminder, your second house was your resources, what you build upon, what you have, what is innately yours, what you bring to the table. And then we get to the eighth house, which is the shared resources. So those are resources where there's sort of like a giving and receiving. A lot of times it's positioned as a give and take, which, I mean, sometimes there is a give and take, but we want to start looking at respecting our boundaries and creating the eighth house as a place of where we give and receive rather than give and take. So the eighth house is shared resources. So the romantic partner or the business partner you have, and you're talking about just the relationship between you two, and now you look at the resources between the two of you. So this could mean any money or residuals or things, material things that come about as of the contracts you set in the seventh house with your business partner. So it's like resources as a result of those partnerships, either the resources that you're giving or the resources that you're giving and the resources that you're sharing. A same thing with your romantic partner or partners. And so the eighth house is set up like that. But it's also, when you're thinking about it in a more esoteric level of giving and receiving, it's like that's where we look at like eighth house as sex, right? So sex is an exchange, death is an exchange. So that's how they say sex, death, and taxes. It's like a play on kind of like the concepts of what is in the eighth house. So anything that's resources that are shared, they're given and taken in that exchange with that. And that's as opposed to your own resources, right? So there's sort of like there could be a balance, there could be an opposition, or there could be an exchange and a balance. So next we get to the ninth house, and the ninth house on the zodiacal wheel is directly opposite to your third house. So your third house is like your immediate community, like your siblings, your cousins, your immediate neighborhood, like the block you grew up on, your schools, the information you learned as a child, like the information that you're just receiving. Whereas the ninth house is looking at your community, um, statewide, countrywide, or internationally to other countries. And so it's the community that you interact with, people who are not familiar to you. So it's people who are born in other countries, places where you go, where you are the foreigner in that country. It's also a place of where you take the information and the ideas that you were learned as a child, either through school, through friends, through family, and you process those in the ninth house. And that's where it's a more philosophical. So it's like your philosophy on life, your theories on life. It's higher education. It could higher higher education could literally mean like secondary schools, trade schools, colleges, um, the school of life, like internships, things where you are now developing the way that you want to operate in life outside of just the information. Like you process the information that you're given, and now you create your own sense of how you think, how you believe. So this is your belief systems are developed here. Your philosophies on life are developed here, and your knowledge where you are mastering information is here, right? And so it's international travel, it's traveling outside of your community. There's like a motorcycle gang outside. I don't know what's going on. I just hear like a bunch of motorcycles. I don't know if you can hear that, but it just happened right now. So sorry if you can hear that. But anyway, so so that is your ninth house. Then we get to your 10th house. And your 10th house is directly opposite of your 4th house. And your 4th house was where you have like your traditions, like your family, um, the things that you are handed, what things are given to you, things that you've learned, like where you react instinctively, your gut reactions to things, as because of the way that you were sort of like grow up, right? And this is also ancestral things that you're handed to you, cultural things you're handed to you. So things from that are already in place that are given to you. Whereas the 10th house is sort of like where your legacy is. So the things that you bring forth, the things that you develop in this world and pass on to others, right? So the 10th house is also looked at as like your public house, right? Your public face. And it kind of works in hand with your first house in that you have your sense of self, who you are, who you come into the world with. And the 10th house is the world in which you're walking into and the way that you relate to the world. So it has things like your reputation, how you move about the world, how you interact with other people in the world. You're sort of like your public persona, right? And so this is often also talked about in a mundane way as your career house, right? So that's one of the ways that you operate in the world is how you look at your career. And this is in relation to the 6th house, where the 6th house is like your work, right? So what work or what day-to-day things that you have to do to get things done. But your 10th house is like your overall career, like the general motivation in your life, what you want to do, like your life's work, your public, how you are in the world, right? So that's your 10th house. And so this is one of the houses where we look at in terms of like where we start to look at like how like you want to plan your career, how you want to operate in the world, and all the ways that you want to do that. So then we get to the 11th house, and the 11th house is the house of associations. These are organizations that you want to be a part of, like your tribe, finding your tribe, finding the groups of people where you feel like it's a sense of belonging. And this is opposed to the 5th house, right? This is the 5th house? Yes, right. So this is in opposition to the 5th house, where the 5th house is about your own individual pleasure, the way that you feel good, the way you see fit to experience pleasure and joy and want to feel good in life. And so when you get to the 11th house, this is how you have shared joy. So this is how you experience joy in groups and associations. And it's also the house, they call it the house of hopes and dreams, because just like the way that you want to feel good individually, it's like how you want to go in the world and how you want to spread joy and hope in the world, right? How you hope the world is be, how you see, like this is sort of a place of where you sort of develop an idea of a utopia, because a utopia involves other people, right? So this is sort of like your idealistic way that you see the world and how you want to shape the world, right? And you do that in a supportive way. So the people and organizations and associations and your tribe and your friend groups and the way that you support them and they support you, and how you go about the world creating this utopia or whatever the case may be, how you want to look at it. And so then we come to the final house, which is the 12th house, and this is in opposition to the 6th house of your daily routines work. And this is sort of like your dream area. And this part of the house I like to call the attic or the basement. And this is sort of where, if you think about your attic, it's like, it's not the things that you need on it. Like your office is where you have like the stuff right away, like your pens and pencils and your notepad and your computer, your laptop, um, your mail, like, right? That's all the stuff that's in your home office or your projects that you're working on. So that's what's going to be in your 6th house, the things that you need on a daily basis to function, right? So then your 12th house is like the stuff that you want to keep, your keepsakes, but you don't need to interact with them on a daily basis. It's the stuff that's in boxes. It's the stuff that you packed up and put away and you want to keep, but you don't need them all the time. And I like to call this house also is like your cave. This is where you see you fully, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Everything. This is where your skeletons are. This is where your secrets are. And not very, very few people see this except for maybe your therapist or like the person that you trust the most in the world with everything. Those are the only people that even get a peek into the 12th house. This is like your domain. This is where you are kind of like your most human, where you're just yourself completely, just like let it all loose. You have no your representative is not here. Okay, your representative is somewhere else, but or maybe your representative is in your first house, right? But you are fully you in your 12th house. So um, on the and going back to the seventh house, people talk about the seventh house a lot as like the house of like your open enemies, because it's like how it's like an oppositional, right? Here's yourself in the first house, and then here's yourself in the seventh house, and the seventh house is like open enemies. It's like your opposition, right? I mean, it's like you don't necessarily have to have like open enemies in that way. It's just anything that's oppositional to how you are fully yourself, right? And so in the 12th house, interestingly, is where the house of hidden enemies, right? Hidden enemies. And sometimes, oftentimes, I've been reading a lot of astrology, and I've come to the conclusion that a lot of times when they're talking about hidden enemies, I mean, yeah, sometimes we have people that present themselves as our friend that they're not. I mean, we have those experiences, like to a certain extent, or maybe a lot. But a lot of times when you're talking about the hidden enemies, a lot of times it could mean you yourself. Like your, it's a lot of times the 12th house is called like the house of self undoing. So it's like the way that you get in your own way, right? So you have these hopes and dreams, you have these aspirations, but then you come to the 12th house. And what ways are you like keeping yourself from realizing these hopes and dreams, right? What are the ways that you could be self sabotaging, right? And so this is just where you are fully real, where your secrets are, where your skeletons are, all that. And so, but it's also a place of your dreams, where you think about things in a certain way that is real, right? So um, that's basically the 12 houses in a nutshell. Um, I will be doing obviously more videos where we go more in depth and we talk about things in a way a little bit more personal. These are just very general. This is like pertains to everybody. But we want to get to the point where we're talking about how the astrology affects you personally. So if you like what you heard, I would love for you to like this video. Um, and again, hit the subscribe button. And also make sure that you turn on your notifications because in the future I will be going live. So I wouldn't want you to miss any lives. And another thing I'll ask is if you can please comment if you have obviously if you have any questions about what I talked about today, if there's some things that you want me to talk about in specifics or generalities, any questions you have, because one of my aims with my channel is to demystify astrology, right? I mean, we can use astrology tool in very practical, very meaningful, very relatable ways. And so that's one of my goals with doing this. And so this isn't this channel isn't meant for me to just talk at you, but it's an exchange because it's like there if you're gonna be wanting to use this as a tool, there's things you're gonna want to need to get out of it, right? So I invite you to please comment and once again don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like and share with a friend. And so I thank you for your time, for listening. Take care of yourselves and see you next time.